Why do I still put myself through this bullshit? So last week, the first episode of Love by Chance Season 2 came out. And on top of being really hard to access, which I will talk about in next week's video, it was incredibly bad. And after a whole day of fuming, I had to ask myself this question: why do BL sequels suck so bad? So I want to go in chronological order of sequels that disappointed me, and then we'll analyze why they're so bad. Oh, and I'm gonna spoil all of these shows, but frankly they're just so bad that you shouldn't watch them. So I'm gonna group Lovesick and Make It Right together, even though Lovesick is just so much superior and iconic, but I'm doing that simply because they're the two oldest Thai BL shows. So Lovesick was released in 2014 and once again it's just iconic. Puno are just kings of communication and one of the healthiest ships I've ever witnessed. While Make It Right was released in May 2016, a couple months before Sotus, which was the BL that really brought in new fans, including me. Both shows have 2 seasons, yet this sequel is good. Why? Because it was planned. Both shows' first season ends on a cliffhanger, which season 2 works to resolve. At the end of season 2, there's no storyline left undone. You feel satisfied. And that's how second seasons should be done. So like I said, Sotus was really the first BL that really blew up and brought in a lot of new BL fans, including me. So of course, being one of GMMTV's most successful series, they would try to make a sequel. The only problem was that this story had already been told in its entirety in the first season. So instead they made both main characters annoying and added 4 new ships instead of giving us the prem what we wanted. At the time, Sotus S was received quite badly by fans since it was the first BL sequels that was disappointing. There's also this recurring problem that GMMTV doesn't really know how to portray established relationships, and so both actors looked really awkward trying to act as a couple. That being said, now looking back, Sotus S was really not the worst BL sequel. In fact, the last episode is very cute. We were not ready for what awaited us. So let's open old wounds again, shall we? So while Sotus was my very first BL, Toons is the first BL I watched live as each episode aired. And it also became the first BL I ever stand. Like, I loved it. And it was such a success that there was no doubt we would get a season 2. So we waited and waited, and a year and a half later we get a teaser. A simple text on the screen. We rejoice, we party, we scream from happiness. A week later it's announced that the old cast will be replaced. All because this individual left the show after launching his career with it. So I'm telling you all of this because even when a sequel isn't bad, it can be really messy and have a lot of controversies. And it can also end up hurting the very fans that made it successful in the first place. I haven't seen 2 Moons 2 because, as you can see, I'm very attached to the original and I don't want to hurt myself, but I know that a lot of people consider it their favorite BL. So not a bad sequel, but just an unfair and messy one. So now we get to the worst BL, Together With Me Next Chapter.
ทีม A ของเราผ่านไปนะครับทีมต่อไปนะครับที่จะต้องมาทำมิชชั่นนี้
So Together With Me was really successful. I suspect that it was because it was the first IBL that showed somewhat explicit sex scenes. So it comes from the show Bad Romance, which was released before but is actually a sequel of Together With Me. And so obviously, since it was a hit, they decided to make a sequel. To be frank, even though the story was all done in the first season, fans were really excited because in Bad Romance, Korn proposes to Knock. And so we really thought the whole sequel would be about their wedding. It wasn't even mentioned once. So instead, we get Korn, the dude who's so in love with his boyfriend, cheating on him. And they even made Yua, the best character from the original series, cheat too. I swear to God, when I say no one liked this story, I really mean it. It was so terrible and disgusting, it managed to ruin the original show for me. And I get it, they didn't know how to make this new season interesting, but cheating was the last thing to do. We watch BL and romance in general because we're cheesy who want to believe in everlasting love, not see some disgusting ass cheating going on. I am truly still flabbergasted that they managed to make such a terrible sequel. Like, how can you be so dumb? How? Another sequel that ruined the original show for me. So What the Duck is a very mediocre show that just happens to have a wonderful ship like Pop Oath. I love them so much. Like, I just love them so much. And I still do, but they ruined it for me, you know? And what's kind of ironic with this sequel is that it was planned from the beginning. So you might think it was like Lovesick, where this sequel was good. Wrong! Even though it was planned, it still followed the novel it was adapted from. Oh, and by the way, that's another interesting topic, the fact that BLs are almost always adapted from novels. So much so that shows like Where Are You and Make Our Days Count actually released novels after airing their show. But in that case, the novel was a sad one. And so Pop Wolf broke my heart. I'm not kidding, I cried so hard after watching the last episode, and it was also the day before my birthday, so just horrible. Since this sequel was a continuation of the first season, it therefore completely ruined it for me. At least I can pretend Together With Me next chapter never happened. I can't escape the fact that Popo never once had a happy ending. I'm sad about it again. But let's talk about the fact that it was adapted at all. Why even bother to adapt a sad story when it's very clear that BL fans want romantic comedies with happy endings? Even if the original novel was super successful, I feel like it was a bad decision to adapt it without changing the ending, because it having a sad ending felt so purposeless. It's like the 28 episodes had been for nothing. And that's never what you want a show to be. So now we're back to the whole reason why I'm filming this video. On the 2nd of September 2020, Love by Chance 2 was released. And though I can't testify to the fact that it's gonna be terrible because I've only watched 2 episodes, I can say for sure that this season 2 launch was a flop for the fans. Again, I'm not going to talk about the fact that it was legit impossible for the fans to watch it on the release day, because this is for another video. I'm talking about the fact that instead of starting right where Tin Can ended in season 1, they felt the need to restart their whole story, even though other storylines just stayed the same, meaning that it happened at least a year after Hey Beat. Can we talk about how this doesn't make sense for a minute? Why in the hell would you start over a whole storyline that we already witnessed? Oh, because you didn't have enough material to fill in 12 episodes. So instead of acknowledging Saint's existence and asking him to be back on the show, you'd rather the show just be shit? And I'm not even talking about the fact that Pete is missing when he was the best main character of the show. So now A is a depressed crying mess and serves basically no purpose to the story anymore. I'm not even talking about the fact that iconic season 1 characters have vanished into thin air and how they recasted other characters. Oh, and also they can change Tin Can's whole story, yet they can't change the fact that Kang Lara Techno. Excuse me while I go barf. So basically everything that made this show cute is gone, and what's left is a big feeling of emptiness. That's what I felt watching the first 2 episodes. It just feels like the soul of the show is missing, and I'm starting to wonder if it wasn't better to leave Tin Can as a sad ending, even though it would pain me. Now I want to talk about the BL sequels I feel worked, starting by the best one, Dark Blue Kiss. So Dark Blue Kiss managed 2 things. So first, it managed to have this established relationship intimacy that was lacking from a lot of GMM TV shows, and secondly, it managed to be so much better than its prequel. That being said, it wasn't that hard because Kiss Me Again is literally the worst GMM TV show. It was so damn terrible that nothing could be worse than this. So even though I do hate the opening credits, I do consider Dark Blue Kiss one of my favorite BL series because it actually managed to make me love Pete Cow when I just didn't beforehand. Then there's The Moment, which is a miniseries that was released in early 2020 and had a sequel about 6 months later. Here I completely believe that the sequel wasn't planned, but happened because the series got a lot of positive feedback. And the writers were very lucky because the characters don't get together in the first season, so they could use that in the second season. And so it was really easy to make a nice continuation of the series. So now Together. I don't think I need to talk about the gigantic success this series had, but it's really unsurprising that they wanted to make 5 extra episodes after the series ended. So right now I've only watched 3 out of the 5 episodes, but I can already tell that this is a fine sequel. Not gonna lie, they didn't have a lot of extra story to tell, so it feels a little purposeless, but at least they didn't create drama between the ships and the established relationship intimacy is there. So to conclude, what makes a good BL sequel is that it was planned all along, so it respects the original story without destroying it. Or it can be the fact that writers finally understand that we don't want too much drama, but instead we want to see an established relationship work as a team. All of these points make me believe that sequels like YYY and My Engineer will be at least somewhat good, and it makes me feel a bit better. As for bad sequels, it often happens out of greed without caring for the legacy of the show. The process can be messy with actors dropping out and drama happening behind the scenes. And in the end, if it's to produce such disaster, we can ask ourselves if it's not better to not do any sequel at all. I do believe we're moving away from terrible sequels, even though I do see Love by Chance 2 as a setback if I'm honest. I'm at a point where I can't help but be cynical and keep my expectations on the ground. And it's sad. I want to be excited about the stories that speak to me, but I'm just scared. So yeah, I do hope that sequels will start being thought of as continuation of a story instead of a cash grab to please the fans. Anyways, I've ranted enough. I'm gonna go relax in front of Still Together episode 4, and I hope you have a good day.